Hey everybody, it's Rob the Cherry City Guns and Ammo, and we have a completely new type of video for you today. As you can see, I'm not on the range. I'm actually here in my reloading area at my own home, not at my buddy's house where we do all my shooting videos. And we're in here for a very specific reason. This is going to be a brand new type of series for me, and I'm going to call it This Old Hunting Rifle. Basically, I've got a rather beat up old hunting rifle, and I'm going to do everything I can to bring it back to new. This is something that I've done many times in the past. As a matter of fact, it's something I just completed, and as soon as I completed it, all I did was kick myself because not only did I not do a video series on it, I didn't even take before and after pictures. But I will show it to you so you can kind of see what we're going to try to do with this old rifle. The rifle that we're going to refurbish, this is an original Ruger M77 Tang safety. And it's chambered in 257 Roberts. What a cool old caliber and a cool old rifle that's unfortunately just been used and abused and needs our help. So, I said I just finished doing this to another rifle. I was approached by a guy I know about this rifle and the one I just finished. Saying, hey, would you be interested in a project gun? I have two project guns, and I thought maybe you'd be interested in taking on one of them because he knows that I've done this many times in the past. And they're both 25 calibers. One's a 257 Roberts and one is a 25-06. Here's the 257 Roberts, M77 Mark II. He wanted $250 a piece for him. He couldn't remember what the 25-06 was, just that it was a 25-06. So I said, as long as the bore looks good, even if the Roberts is absolutely beat to crud, I am interested. Because if the bore is good, I can kind of fix everything else. And I said, I'm probably not really all that interested in the other one. He said it was probably some type of military sporter. He wasn't 100% sure. But he said it was an even rougher shape than the M77, which, yes and no, maybe. I don't know. Different issues. And I ended up going and taking a look at them both, and what I found was this old M77 does have a bright mint looking bore. I don't think this has been shot much, and I don't know how you can tell with this current lighting, but we'll get some better pictures on the workbench here. But the bluing's not awful. There's no rust on the outside. It's just very warm. What's really bad is this stock has absolutely been beaten to death. It's in awful shape, to put it mildly. Really bad. Lots of dents, lots of dings, gouges, scrapes, missing finish, you name it. The stock has been through the ringer. And I don't know what somebody did, but yeah, they didn't treat it very well. I was very interested in this. He held firm to the $250. I accepted it. I have not started this one for several reasons. There were pieces missing on this that I have coming into me now that I've had to buy on eBay. Can't find new parts for this because they haven't manufactured these since 1991. So I had to buy some used parts on eBay, and they are on the way to me. There's safety parts, kind of the main safety linkage, and there's a plate that when you put it on safe rotates up and locks the bolt. So that way when it's on safe, you can't open the bolt. You have to take the gun off of safe to actually open the bolt. Those pieces are missing. And I couldn't find 257 Roberts ammo anywhere. Anywhere. To even try to go do a test firing. Although I have faith in it because, like I said, the bore looks mint. I don't know how something gets this badly trashed on the outside but still looks so great on the inside. So the other gun, this is kind of interesting. It's marked Inner Arms Mark X. Inner Arms is a gun company. Basically they would import these military surplus rifles, strip away everything basically except for the bolt, the action, and the trigger, put a new barrel on it in whatever caliber they decided to, anywhere from short action, even though it's a long action, it's a really long action receiver that can even handle Magnum calibers, but they would chamber from anywhere from short action cartridges all the way up to magnums and everything in between. And they just labeled them the Mark X. This one is actually a Yugoslavian Mauser. And its stock was in just as bad a shape as that one. No scope on it. That one actually had that old 3-9 burris on it that's currently on it, still on it. But no scope, no rings, and it might be hard to tell. I don't know how well this will focus, but there is a lot of exterior pitting on the barrel where there was rust. That was enough and was on there long enough that it caused pitting. And the worst of it was actually between the barrel and the stock. From 10 feet away, this rifle looks great. I was able to scrub the rust away and then touch all the bluing up with some cold bluing, which made it look a lot better and gives it some layer of protection. But it's never going to be fantastic. But it's okay. Again, same on this one, the bore was mint. Somebody took good care of the bore of their rifles or just didn't ever shoot them and somehow let the bluing and the stock go to absolute crap. The stock, I don't know what kind of finish it was, but it was a surface finish that was mostly chipped off. But I could tell that it looked like it was probably some decent wood. The old rubber recoil pad was crumbling just because with age they start to crumble and all that. And then it had this really ugly plastic cap that was just screwed to the bottom here. Because 25-06 is a caliber that you can still find, I was rather excited to get on this and actually try to shoot it. So I got on it, touched up the bluing, completely stripped the stock, and I used nothing but true oil on it. And it really brought out some nice grain. Looks really good. I used no stain or anything like that, just the true oil. I got a Limb Saver recoil pad that I ground to fit because I do have a recoil pad grinding jig. I took off the plastic cap that was on the bottom and I epoxied on this nice piece of ebony, so it's got a nice ebony cap here on the pistol grip, and got rid of that ugly piece of plastic. Bottom metal was actually in surprisingly good shape. Then I got to another problem, and that was there were scope mounts on the gun, but I bought a scope, bought rings. As a responsible gun owner, I decided while I'm here, I should probably make sure those scope mounts are tight before I try to mount the scope. Got out my torque wrench because I do things properly, and I went to torque the bolts on the front mount and found that they wouldn't tighten up. Oh no. Hopefully the screws are stripped. No, screws weren't stripped, holes were stripped. The back mount seemed fine. Front mount, the holes were stripped. So I actually re-drilled and re-tapped all the scope mount holes. I have a Pachmeyer master screw set for all scope mounting screws that you could ever possibly need. So I drilled it and re-tapped it from 648, which is fairly standard, especially on the older rifles, to 840. So this is now drilled and tapped 840. Got it mounted, put the scope on it. And other than the fact that this still has the original military trigger, which is heavy, it pulls a mile, and it releases super, super, super inconsistently. With Remington Core-Lokt factory ammo, I was getting 1-inch groups. So this is a shooter, and looks pretty good. It looks good, but at the same time, I won't be ashamed to take it out hunting in Western Oregon in the fall where it's rainy, because nothing's going to happen to it that hasn't already happened to it. I will do everything I can to make sure it doesn't go any further, but I was so happy with how this turned out. I have a fix for this trigger. In other words, I have a new trigger. It's being shipped to me. I'm putting a Timney trigger in it that's set to 2.5 pounds. I think between a 2.5 pound trigger in this thing and my own hand loads, this thing is going to be phenomenal. So I'm really thrilled with how this project turned out. Now we're on to the Ruger project. So my thoughts originally were, because this has such a bright bore, like the other gun, touch up the bluing with some cold bluing just to make it look halfway decent. It does not appear to have any pitting whatsoever, so it's not in bad shape. I may eventually take it in for a full hot bluing down the road to really truly refinish this. But for the time being, we're just going to touch that bluing with some cold blue. And then I originally thought about just buying a Boyd's laminate stock for this. The Boyd's laminate stocks look great. They're much more stable when you are going out into wet and cold, like I do here when I'm hunting in the fall in Western Oregon, into the heat, into the heated house. It's better in the long run. Until I saw something. When I looked really close, here at the side of the barrel, hopefully this will focus in. Come on. And it says, made in the 200th year of American liberty. So this is a bicentennial edition. Not only did somebody let this classic old hunting rifle in a classic old caliber go to this condition that it's currently in, but it's a bicentennial edition. So once I just figured out that this is a bicentennial edition, my idea for putting a Boyd's laminate stock on it went out the door. The Mauser, the finish was chipping off, but it wasn't badly dinged. This one's horribly dinged. This stock is going to take me a lot longer and a lot more effort to get looking decent. Just because it's so dented and so gouged. I will tell you, I've got a lot of years of woodworking under my belt. It's amazing what a clothes iron and a wet washcloth can do. So my first task will be to just strip all this finish off with a good varnish remover. And then I'm going to start steaming a lot of dents. And do all the steaming I can. There are a few deeper gouges that may require some wood filler. I will try to do that as little as possible. I really want to do everything that I can to restore this to what it once was. Because this is really cool. Now for a little history on the Ruger M77 and the 257 Roberts caliber, I've got some notes. So the 257 Roberts was developed by Ned Roberts in the 1920s as a Wildcat. Remington adopted it and released it as a standard cartridge in 1934. However, with old metallurgy that they had back in the days, they kept it a fairly low pressure round, running only 54,000 psi. Modern rifles chambered in this that can handle a lot of pressure, you can run up to 58,000 psi. So in the 80s, Remington released a plus P line of ammunition that ran that full 58,000 psi. Gives you a little more something behind there. Not a terrible amount, but a little bit more. P.O. Ackley was quoted as saying the 257 Roberts AI, standing for Ackley Improved, was probably the most useful cartridge of all time. Granted, that was something that he said in the 50s, and this is what P.O. Ackley did. If you're not familiar with him, although if you're watching this channel, you probably are. P.O. Ackley took modern existing calibers and then modified them. He basically just recut the chamber so that you had a steeper shoulder and the sides of the cartridge were more parallel. And what that did is it gave you more powder capacity so you could push all the bullets a little bit faster. So he said the AI version of the 257 Roberts was probably the most useful caliber. Just to give you an idea, a lot of people shoot 100 grainers in it. You can go up to 120s, but a lot of people shoot 100 grainers. A regular 257 Roberts 100 grain bullet, you're looking at about 3,020 feet per second. That's what most of the load data says. A 257 plus P that they came out with in the 80s was able to put the same bullet up to about 3,090 feet per second. So a 70-foot increase, which isn't terrible, but it's something. What's really shocking is that 257 AI bumped it up to 3,226 feet per second. What's really impressive about that, that's less than 100 feet per second difference behind a 25-06 like our Mauser with the same 100 grain bullet. But that's not Ackley Improved. This is a standard one, although we'll be able to load it to the plus P pressures. So the difference will be between 3,090 that we should get in the 257 Roberts. That 25-06 you should be getting 33 and some change, about 33.25, 33.20, something like that. So that's pretty impressive. But P.O. Ackley didn't know that when he made that quote, because the 25-06 was not released till 1969. The Ruger M77, the Mark I, or just the plain Ruger M77, was released in 1968 and built until 1991. It was actually based on the Mauser action. If you look at them side by side, they share a lot of the same traits because they basically just copied the old Mauser K98 with a few exceptions. Those exceptions are they got rid of the blade type ejector. So on the Mauser, the bolt has a slot in the side. And as the bolt comes back, there is a blade that comes out and engages in that groove. It hits the back of the cartridge, and you've got a claw extractor. So you got ejector, extractor. Ejector or extractor is like a claw that grips the rim, pulls it back till it hits that blade, and then it throws the cartridge to the side. They got rid of the blade ejector and went to a plunger type ejector, which is interesting because in 1991, when they came out with the Ruger M77 Mark II, they went back to the blade style ejector. I don't know what was wrong with it in the first place. I don't know what's wrong with the plunger style. Either way, they did away with a Mauser feature and then brought it back in its later edition. And the other big difference was the two-position style safety. The Ruger M77, the original, has a tang safety. It would be right there where this empty hole is. And basically it's activated just by pushing forward, which I love. It's just safe on, fire. So it's very quick in the woods to just push that safety forward and you're on fire. What I don't like, and I'm talking from a personal preference standpoint only, because it's not a right or wrong thing, it's just a preference thing. The Ruger M77 Mark II in many ways copied the Winchester Model 70 safety, and that is a three-position safety that's up on the bolt. It's a little harder to get to, and I personally don't feel the need for a three-position safety. So you have all the way back is really safe, trigger doesn't work, bolt doesn't work. All the way forward is fire, shoot the gun, open the bolt, whatever. The middle position, trigger is on safe, but you can work the bolt. And the idea was you can move it to that middle safety position to unload your rounds out of the gun, but the trigger's still unsafe. I feel that's completely unnecessary because your trigger finger is always your best and most reliable safety. So one of the first rules of gun safety is keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Also, when you're just working the bolt to empty your rifle, your finger's nowhere near the safety. Just a little extra that I don't feel is necessary. Proper training, that's your best and most reliable thing in the world. I don't like the position of it. I don't like the confusion that you could get with 3 different positions. Give me that tang safety all day long. Same reason that I love Mossberg 500 over the Remington 870 when it comes to shotguns. Tang safety versus the crossbolt. I don't like the crossbolt safety either. Although I like the crossbolt safety more than I like that Winchester Model 7 or the Ruger M77 Mark II 3-position bolt safety. Really not a fan of that. The other major difference between the Ruger M77 and the Mauser, and this is true of the original M77 and of the Mark II, and that is the front action screw. So rifles, almost every bolt action rifle you're ever going to see has 2 action screws, one in the front, one in the back. And that simply pulls the receiver down into the stock and holds the receiver in the stock. Almost every time they are vertical. They go straight through the bottom of the stock. Here's the rear one. And the front one on this is hidden by the floor plate. And I don't know how easy it's going to be able to see. You're going to be able to see this on camera. It's tucked up in there. But it is at a forward angle. It's about a 45 or so degree angle. May not be the exact one. If somebody knows the exact angle, correct me. But it sticks up at an angle like this. And so the idea is you always tighten your front action screw first, and it draws the entire receiver and the barrel back into the bedding of the stock to hold it very secure. And then after that, you tighten down your rear action screw. If you notice, there's another screw right here. That does not hold the action into the stock. This holds the front of the trigger guard from falling off, and it holds the internal box magazine from falling out. Does not do anything to hold the gun in. You still just have the 2 action screws. So there's kind of the brief history on the .257 Roberts caliber and the Ruger M77. You don't see the Roberts anymore. Like I said, I looked for ammo for this so I could test fire it, and none could be found. And now my battery's going dead. I'll be right back. Alright, we're back. So the 257 Roberts, you can't find it, so you can't test fire it. Bad thing is, brass is also incredibly hard to find. So I got bullets, I've bought bullets, I've bought dies to reload it. I'm like, well, I can't find factory ammo, I'll just start loading my own, because I do most of my own loaded ammo anyhow. But then I started looking for 257 Roberts brass. Good luck. The very few places that have it want to charge almost $2 brass for it. Luckily, because I've been reloading for a long time and I know a lot of people, and a lot of people know that I reload and do all kinds of shooting and all kinds of crazy stuff, I get given stuff from time to time. And a few years ago, a coworker of mine's father passed away, and when his father passed away, he went down to his place in Nevada, picked up all his guns and all his ammunition, and he had scads of old military surplus rifle and scads of military surplus ammunition and some factory ammunition as well. And one of the rifles he had was a 7mm Mauser. And so my friend went and they basically shot up all of his dad's old ammo. And I don't know how much more reloading they'll do after, or shooting they'll do after that, but he then gave me all this old brass. He said, I know you reload, here's some brass. A lot of it that I don't use, I initially thought, well, I don't reload this, I should throw it away. And then I didn't. As I went through and cleaned it and sorted it and everything else, I kept it. And there's some stuff that I still don't think I'll use, but who knows, maybe I'll find a use for it after all, because I found a use for it here. I got 30-30. I don't own a 30-30. I got 8mm Mauser. I don't own an 8mm Mauser. I got a bunch of 303 British. Again, don't own one. I used to own. I've had two actual old 303 Britishes, but I don't currently have one. And I got a bunch of other stuff that I don't load on a regular occasion. But I also got a bunch of 7mm Mauser. That is quite the happy coincidence, because the 257 Roberts that Ned Roberts developed, he developed it using the 7mm Mauser casing. And the 257 Roberts is just a 7mm Mauser that's been necked down to a 25 caliber. I'll show you a picture up here in the corner of a 750 or 7mm Mauser normal next to one that I resized to 257 Roberts. They share the same shoulder angle. They share the same overall length, although once I resize them, because as you neck it down, it tends to make your brass grow in length, I had to trim them down a little bit. But they're the same overall length brass. It's just neck down to 25 caliber. So I went through and I converted a bunch of 7mm Mauser brass to 257 Roberts. I am going to be getting a bunch reloaded. I'm going to do some test firings hopefully this coming weekend. Depending on how busy we are at site and service, and if I have time to get shots in between customers. Usually we get some dead time, so hopefully I'll be able to do that. And then after that, it'll be hunting season, and I don't know how much time I'll be able to put towards this project, but as I get stuff done on this, all the way up through developing hand loads and everything else, I'll bring you along for the journey. I really hope you enjoy it. I've got another rifle that we're going to be tackling here pretty soon. It's a rifle that I've actually owned since I was 16 years old, and I killed my first deer with. An old Springfield 1903 A3. That was turned into a sporting rifle probably in the 50s or 60s, because that's how they made custom rifles back in the day. Old military actions. So you don't have to worry, I'm not going to sporterize a perfectly good milsurp. It's already been done. I think that's going to be a very interesting project. It's a beautiful rifle. It's got a bird's eye maple stock, and I love it, and it means a lot to me. My kids have already argued about who gets it when I'm dead, even though I'm only 44. Hopefully that's a really long time from now. But they all have, kind of thrown their name in the hat for who gets that rifle once my time comes. So it kind of makes me feel good that they want my old stuff. But it's not hunting ready anymore. So we'll get into that on another time. Hopefully you guys are interested by the idea of this project, and you subscribe, you hit your notification bell so you can follow along as we try to bring this beautiful, or what once was a beautiful hunt rifle, back from the dead and restore it to its previous glory, along with shooting it And maybe even someday we can get some hunting footage with it. I think that'd be super cool. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming back week after week. I hope you're excited by this project, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.